There we go. Okay, let's just give everyone a second to find us, and then we can go. Okay, there we go. All right, well, hello everybody, and welcome back to a new Reader's Warehouse Recommends. I'm Thomas from Reader's Warehouse, and every Monday we are live with book recommendations. Today we've got a bumper attendees joining us today to tell us about some fantastic books. It's the time of year when books make the best present, the best gifts, and so we've been sport for choice today with some amazing books going to be recommended to us. If you didn't know, we are live at 12 o'clock every Monday to recommend books, alternating between children and adult titles, and this week we are doing adult titles. Joining us today are from the publishing industry. We have Francis Thorndike joining us from Pan Macmillan South Africa. We have two people joining us from John and Bull Publishers. It is Annelies Lucas and Wade Jonkus. So thanks so much for joining us. We have Nicholas Silangu from Chakana Media. We have Sine Rascal from Blue River Sales and Marketing, and joining us is Amara Hamildi from Penguin South Africa. So thank you all for coming on today. We're going to be doing 3 rounds of book recommendations, and in each round, one of these wonderful people are going to be recommending a title to us. And each title we will comment in the description of this video, and we'll also be putting it in a blog post on our website, www.readerswarehouse.co.za. And right at the end, I'll just be highlighting our top 5 best-selling adult books for the past 2 weeks at Reader's Warehouse. So we're going to start with round 1. So Francis, over to you for your first title.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to leap right in with Misbelief by Dan Ariely. I hope you can see that.
Yep.
He's done many books previously. Predictably Irrational was probably another bestseller of his. And I've actually found these batches to be quite challenging to read. They're very dense with a lot of facts and graphs and things. This is far more anecdotal and far more accessible. And this is brilliant for those awful Christmas lunches where you have a couple of fanatical people, amongst you, or conspiracy theorists, shall we say, in your midst. He gives you wonderful tools that you can use as counter arguments. But his whole premise of this book is that misinformation is around us continuously. It's a part of our daily lives. Some of us recognize it, most of us don't. And he's a social psychologist, scientist, so he analyzes data as well as, psychological papers and things. And it's been proven that the best way to convince somebody that they are misinformed about something is not to tell them that they are, but actually to find out why they are. So he gives you the tools to do that. And just, why do people mistrust or mistrust things that we all take for granted? Look at the flat earthers. I mean, they are growing in numbers. Our societies are becoming more and more polarized, and the far right and the far left are also growing in numbers. So I think this is a book for everyone to kind of pull them back to the middle, to make them think rationally about things. And he makes the wonderful point of we are irrational beings. We are not rational beings. We are emotional beings. So you've got to appeal to someone's emotions, not to their rationality, when you're engaging with them. So I think it's a brilliant, brilliant book. That's Misbelief by Dan Ariely.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Fran. All right, and Wade, over to you for your first title.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Okay, you can see Brittany.
Yep, we can.
Okay. So yes, she's finally telling her story. Brittany, the woman in me, is finally out. So I read this a couple of weeks ago, so I've got the insider knowledge here. So we follow her at the start as just a young girl growing up. She loves singing, she loves dancing, she loves performing. And so her parents take her to audition for the Mickey Mouse Club. But she's 9 years old at the time when they tell her, listen, you're way too young to do this. You need to come back again. And she gets rejected along with a girl called Christina Aguilera. It's quite funny the way she name drops very, very famous people in this book. She sort of refers to him as just this guy, Justin Timberlake. So eventually she gets into the Mickey Mouse Club. There she meets young Justin Timberlake. At 16, she releases Oops, I Did It Again, and her career just takes off. But of course, at 16, you're still very young, you're very naive, you don't really know what's coming for you. And unfortunately, Britney finds herself falling head over heels for Justin Timberlake. It's the first time she's really fallen for someone properly hard, and she gets her heart broken for the first time. You will not look at Justin Timberlake the same again after you've read this book. And she tries to be, she tries to be quite rational and unbiased about the things that he did, but it's really just unforgivable, honestly. Right, then from Justin Timberlake, she's really boy crazy. She falls for Colin Farrell. They have a short little fling. Then she meets a guy called Kevin Federline. She ends up having 2 kids with him. And then he just turns around and says to her, listen, I want a divorce from you and I want the kids. So she finds herself in a situation where she basically can only see her 2 children who she loves so much when he feels like it, essentially. So it's really terrible stuff for Britney. And then on top of all that, as her career continues and she's sort of struggling with the loss of her kids and the paparazzi are just on her case all the time, suddenly she finds herself put into a conservatorship, which essentially means that the courts and her family now don't believe that she can be trusted with her own finances. So her father and mother basically take over all the millions of dollars that she's made up until now, and they give her a stipend of $2,000 a month. She spent 13 years of her life in this conservatorship, during which time she basically disappeared from the public eye. It turns out she was actually in Las Vegas doing a residency there, which was very successful, made loads of money for her family. But yeah, during this conservatorship, she finds herself having to spend 3 months in rehab. This is the toughest part of the book, where she gets forced to go to rehab for 3 months when she doesn't actually even need to be there. Luckily, thanks to the help of her fans and a really great lawyer, she manages to get herself out of the conservatorship. And we find ourselves in the present day where Britney is now this crazy woman on social media who's sort of getting ready for the second part of her career. I actually share a birthday with Britney, the 2nd of December.
Oh, wow.
So I always felt a kind of kinship with her. So I really enjoyed reading this. I'll show you I've actually got a copy that I received here. It's got this really great inlay of her dancing in her prime.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's an awesome book. I really recommend it. It's a great gift for Christmas. Britney Spears.
Yeah, thanks. I saw it as mentioned #1 in America and the UK this week when it came out. And I have to say also our Kloof store actually asked me for more copies. They think it's going to be one of the books for Christmas because we've seen sales for it every day, the sales coming at the moment. So I'm not sure if it's just the fans or just interest overall, for it. I saw someone actually say in one review that you'll never see Justin, that was very bad look at Justin Timberlake. Like you'll never look at him like you said again. It's a very scaling on against him.
Yep, he's gonna have to. He has some apologizing to do, definitely. But no, it's an excellent gift book. I think she deserves everything that's coming to her now. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Wade. All right, Amara, over to you for your first title.
Oh goodness. Okay, so the first title that I'm going to be speaking about is sorry, just give me a second. Let me share my screen. Where's the share button? Okay, there we go. Is The Diary of a CEO. It is by Steven Bartlett. It is just also
Amara, I think we lost your signal. Can everyone hear her? I can't hear her. Yeah, Amara, I think we lost you there all of a sudden.
Is that better?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so like I said, Steven Bartlett is sort of The Diary of a CEO is sort of selling itself. A lot of people already know who Steven Bartlett is. He's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world called The Diary of a CEO. He actually was initially a marketing graduate and he started his own marketing company at the age of 23. It went on to be a $1 million company. And after 5 years, the company was worth $3 million. And he decided, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a break from that. And I want to actually spend my time talking to other people who were CEOs of companies and are leaders of the industry, and then sort of examining their life. And what I really like about his podcast is that he doesn't talk about the career trajectory or the path that they went on. He does in a little bit, but it's sort of deeper than what did you do and how did you get there. It's what are the things that happened to you along the way. It deals more with the emotional connection or the emotional element or aspect of becoming a leader of your industry, and the sort of deeper elements to the things that a lot of people have had to sacrifice and the difficulties that they had to overcome, sort of becoming the leaders of the industry. So what he does in this book is he takes the 33 laws of life and business and all of the things that he has learned along his years of podcasting, and he condenses it into these 33 laws. Sometimes I get a little bit upset that he calls it the 33 laws of business, because it makes me think of the Robert Greene. And the Robert Greene was like very much like not about the emotional element. It wasn't about like finding balance. It was all about succeeding, and it doesn't matter if you push other people down while you do it. Whereas I think Stephen Bartlett focuses more on the emotional elements, about how like they are things like that, but it also has like little habits and things along the way. So it's really a good book to have if you want a self-help kind of style book. This is one that I would recommend, and I would also recommend that people listen to his podcast. I think that would be a really good, it's really worth the listen.
Yeah, this book has surprised me so much this year. I mean, I remember our first stock came in, it flew, and we had to reorder this book, and it's amazing. I don't know, like, he's so well known with his podcast here, but wow, I've been really amazed how well this book is. And this is perfect for like, if you don't know what to get, like somebody in their 20s, you know, and that's like in what's working. This is like a perfect gift for anyone in their 30s. It's just like his stories and wisdom is like, it's very, very, very good.
And and it's also really nice because the chapters are quite short, so you can like dip in and out of the book, and you can just like go in and get like the information that you kind of want to take out, and then like go out and then come back in at a later date. It doesn't feel heavy to read. It's like really quite easy, especially I think in an age now where everybody wants like quick and fast information. It's a really good book to have alongside that.
Great, perfect. Thanks so much, Amara. All right, so Nicholas, over to you for your first title. You also have to unmute yourself as well, Nicholas. There we go.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
First title is Paperless. This is Buntu Siwisa. This is his debut novel. His first published work was Apartheid Rapid Resistance. That was telling the story of Denkeke, the guy who made it all possible for the joys we are enjoying today, seeing Siya Kolisi being an inspiration we have, because that's where he played, he built that stadium. Now in Paperless, first, this was shortlisted for the James Curry Prize for African Literature this year, which is quite a formidable fiction prize. So in this book, we find Luzuko Goba, the main character, who is studying in Oxford, and he navigates the world of the undocumented migrants and people living at the margins of the English life. And it's got so much soul, this novel. You know, it observes all these hidden lives of African migrants in England who find themselves studying at Oxford. We all aspire to go and study there, whether you sponsored or your parents can take you there. It's such a highly sought qualification in different spheres. But then you still find, you know, Africans have this hate and love relationship with Oxford. So Buntu, you know, weaves all these characters that also incorporate the African who are in exile. You find Luzuko's father, you know, was in exile, and he dies in exile, and he has now to reconcile and question his father's contribution to the freedom that people back home are enjoying. And in it also, he brings in the lives lived by people of color in the diaspora who live and study in Oxford, and the lives of Black Britons in that brilliant style of, you could say, Zadie Smith when she writes about race and class in there. So it is a book that, with its striking jacket also, I expect people to enjoy it, to pick it for their festive reading, and especially as we are receiving a lot of Europeans visiting us. So, and also it draws also, lastly, the sharp spotlight on what the UK's Department of Immigration is currently unleashed war on migrants. So it brings also that dynamic in it. So I think this is a fiction author to watch for the future, and we can't wait for his next best novel.
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks so much, Nicholas. That's a great like referencing, it's almost like if you read Zadie Smith and enjoyed her to try Bantu, that's a great reference. So yeah, thanks so much. All right, so now we're on to Sine. Over to you for your first title.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you. Okay, let me quickly just start sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. Okay, so first up today, I'm very excited to present a work of local fiction from Rian Foster. And this book is Beyond the Ranges. It's definitely one of my favorite covers we've had this year so far. And it definitely gives you a bit of a glimpse into the story. So we start out in Cape Town in 1924, and we follow our main character, Matthew, who is a discontented boat repairman who gets caught up in a dull and aimless existence, but he quickly gets swept up in this amazing adventure to realize his boyhood dream of exploring the Amazon. So he eventually travels to the Amazon and meets some very interesting characters along the way on his adventure. So Rian, the author himself, has actually traveled in the Amazon. So this book is really from a first-hand experience. It's very well researched in the historical aspect. Yeah, and it's just a great adventure, a very gripping read. So perfect for reading on the beach or while on holiday this coming December. Rian is well known in Cape Town for being a tour guide around Table Mountain. So he's definitely the sort of outdoorsman, adventurous person who you can expect to really pull you into a story. So we're very excited about this one and hope readers will enjoy. So that's Beyond the Ranges.
Perfect, great. Thanks so much, Sine. When you first started, it made me think it's almost like for fans of Walter Smith or some, in that kind of adventure type of writing. So yeah, great.
Definitely, definitely that nostalgic feel around it. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we're on to the last person for this round. So Annelies, it's over to you. Do you want me to share a title, or are you going to share? You're going to let me know. It's going to have to unmute yourself first, Annelies. There we go. Are you going to share, or do you want me to share?
The first one I'll talk about is the Matthew Perry. If you have it, you can share it.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
share it.
I just have it. So I don't.
Okay.
I don't think it's. Yeah, you can share it.
Sure. Let me just do that. My screen. Share screen, and it's that one. There we go.
Okay, so we all obviously know that Matthew passed away, I think, last week, Sunday. And the book came out, I think, last year around about this time. And it's one of those books that, we were all lucky to get a copy or a reading copy, at least from, Almarie. And I always told people that, or I'm still telling people that it's one of the biographies that I read last year and that I really struggled through. It was a really difficult read. It obviously started off with, him as a little boy when he was born, his family life, and, obviously looked at his career, how he became famous while being the main character in Friends, and one of the series that people are still watching and really enjoying. So like I said, it started off with him, and the one thing that stood out for me was the fact that I think most people or some people don't know or might know that his father or his biological father was the original model of Old Spice, the fragrance. So that was his real dad. Him and his mother got married, or I think they had him when his mother was only 21 years old. He then decided that, things were not working out. So Matthew and his mom went to his grandparents, and it meant they didn't live in the same city. So they had to travel. As a young boy, I think 4 or 5 years old, he was put on a plane with, a little notice on his chest saying that, he was a minor that's traveling on his own. And, you can look at some of there's photos obviously in the book as well. And he was apparently a colicky baby, so very difficult. His mother is young, she's struggling, so she took him to the doctor. And I think, if they say your baby is a colicky baby, they cry all the time. So they try to find something to obviously calm him down. And I think it's, for me, it's almost how his addiction started, because you can see in some of the photos, he's a little baby and they give him the stuff, and the next moment he's just like, he's zoned out completely. Then we went on to his teenage years, where he was actually a very good tennis player. I think he ranked like second or something. As a tennis player, and then obviously decided to at some point to go and live with his dad. And that's obviously how he became then famous. And you also look at his, I think when he was 14 years old, it's the first time that he got stoned, like we would say, like him and his friends were having a party, and they were drinking, and he just, stoned out completely. And then also he's very difficult, even though he was so famous and really happy. And I think at some point of the book, he talks about the fact that, he prayed and asked God to be really famous, and it obviously did happen. But it seemed like there was always something missing in his life, like he had failed relationship with very like great women in his life. I think, we all obviously know that he really liked, what's the name, that's still out there, and was also part of the Friends crew. He obviously, like all of that, and just, but in the end, he obviously tried to, he almost died so many times. And that's why I say, if I can compare it to, struggles of his life, it almost reminded me of the book called The Little Life.
Oh yeah.
That was out, that's, the main character in Little Life is Jude, and Jude struggled all his life. Matthew obviously didn't have all the abuse going on, but it was just, it was that kind of struggle that he had all the time. But in the end, he obviously, decided that he wanted to help people, because he knows what it's like to, struggle through addiction and all of that. And like I say, up until last week, when there's also conspiracies going around that, the last chapter in this book was called Batman, and it seems like there was, things on Instagram and social media that was kind of like hinting to the fact that, Batman is in charge of his life, and maybe he took his own life. But then we also saw that, it wasn't the case. I think 24 hours before he passed, he still had a meeting with, to do that, with the fact that he wanted to do a biopic of his book for next year or the years to come. And, so it doesn't seem like he was in a mindset of taking his own life. So definitely a gift to give to someone, because there is hope, like he does get through everything. He does start helping people. And I think if you just have the grit and the guts, you can get through anything and everything. So yeah, definitely, if you want to encourage people and that they're going through things, this is definitely a gift that people can use for that purposes. So yeah, that's the Matthew Perry.
Yeah, and I have to say that ever since his passing, it's so sad. People have just been asking for that book, and
Yes.
we'll have more stock this week. There was stock at John the Ball last week. I know it's out of stock now, but we'll have stock again this week. But yeah, such a huge loss, and but still an
Yeah,
incredible
yeah.
story.
Yes, no, definitely. It's a encouraging story.
Okay, so we're on to round 2. So Francis, over to you for your second title.
Okay, folks, so my second title is What's Your Money Personality by Vangile Makawa. I hope you can see it.
Yeah, I didn't know it was such a chunky book. It's like, wow, I
Can
didn't
you see how
realize.
thick it is?
Yeah, I'm like, wow, oh my word.
So she is she's a blogger, she is a money trauma coach. That's the bit I really like, the trauma bit. And this is a book aimed squarely at Black families, but I really think there is something for everyone in here. So she managed to pay off her debt-free within 3 years. And she talks about how she achieved that. And that is a big thing. Anyone who's got student loans knows what a huge, huge thing that is. But she talks very much about the cultural influences, sometimes cultural trauma, your relationships in your family. You see your parents relate to money in a certain way, maybe it's a fearful way, and you subconsciously pick up on that. But for me, the hook of the book that makes it so special and stand out from, because there's a million other books out there on Black tax, etc., is she unpacks the archetypes. So there are 5 shadow archetypes that she mentions, which is the sweet one, the destroyer, the runaway, the fixer, and the eternal child. And we all know one of those, and you can yourself think who you are there. I could relate very much to the fixer. So those are sort of your shadow archetypes. That's what you inherit from your culture and your family. But then she gives you the golden archetypes, how you can metamorphosize from those into a much healthier relationship with money, with yourself. It's amazing how many more books are coming out showing that we connect with money on an emotional level. We know we shouldn't spend that, we shouldn't get that, we're probably going to forget about that next week, but we still go and buy it. And she wants you to understand why and where the roots of that come from. So I think it's a brilliant book. So that's What's Your Money Personality.
That's so great to give to like a friend for January, like starting the new year, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, to give to a friend.
Yes. And as you said, there's a lot in there. So lots of anecdotes, lots of little summaries. It's a fascinating book.
Okay, fantastic. Perfect. Thanks, Fran. All right, Wade, over to you for your second title.
Cool, thank you. Let's share the screen here. All right. So this is my book of the year. This is How to Save Babylon by Sophia Sinclair. She's now sort of a well-established poet, but this is her memoir about growing up in Jamaica. So Sophia had a very strict father who was part of a sort of militant sect of Rastafarianism. And he believed it was his duty to protect his family, especially his daughters, from the sort of horror of Babylon. And so he put very sort of strict rules on all of them, what they were allowed to wear, what they were allowed to do with their lives, what hobbies they were allowed to have, all that kind of thing. And as she now growing up in this house, he became increasingly paranoid and abusive to them. And the only light in the darkness for Sophia was literature, which was introduced to her by her mother. And so she fell in love with poetry and began writing herself. And soon she was winning awards. It turned out she had, this huge talent for poetry. And she found herself leaving Jamaica, going to the States and, around the world to accept various awards for these things. And so she got to experience the world outside of Rastafarianism, these sort of other possibilities of other ways of living life. And eventually she became completely disillusioned by Rastafari and decided to cut her own dreadlocks, which was this huge moment in the entire family. It really shook their family. And her father never really looked at her the same after that. But this moment eventually inspired her mother and her 2 sisters to do exactly the same thing, to cut their dreadlocks and free themselves from the hold that their father had on the family. So this is her memoir. She's still, quite young now. So we just follow up till the present day. She's still trying to sort of kind of reconcile with her father now. Her mother is now completely left Jamaica, lives in the States, really just living it up, like living her best life, very much so. The reason why I love this book is because Sophia Sinclair is a poet. So the writing in this book is beautiful. It's incredibly lyrical and evocative, and you really feel like you're there with her growing up in the small towns of Jamaica. It's been compared to books like Tara Westover's Educated. So that sort of gives you an idea of what you're dealing with there. I think it's going to be a bit of a sleeper hit, this book, because it's coming out, you know, with Brittany, with Jada Pinkett Smith's book, with Kerry Washington's book, all these huge memoirs coming out. This one's going to be a little under the surface, I think. But next year, it will surely be the one that wins the awards. I'm certain of it. And it's just a great...
I have to say that with this book, if you look under the reviews, there's nearly everyone has read this book and raved about it. Like just this, the list goes on and on. So it sounds like if you do attempt to read this book, you will just be, you know, like I think similar to that Tara Westover, that you'll just be like blown away and want to talk about the book like nonstop. So yeah.
Yeah, you just get pulled in. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much, Wade. All right, Amara, over to you for your second title. I think we just can't hear you again, Amara.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the second book I'll be talking about, I've got a little video for you. It is a new Jo Nesbo title. It is called The Night House. A lot of people will know Jo Nesbo from his Harry Hole series. This is very different. The writing is still fantastic, but this is a harder book. It is about a telephone, a flesh-eating telephone, which I think might initially put people off. But I think that if you really love Jo Nesbo, that he's got that distinct style. His writing can be a bit graphic sometimes, which I think people really love. And the book is sort of divided into 3 parts, sort of the explanation of what is going on in the book. And then there's a twist in the middle, then there's a third twist near the end, and the book just like rounds off really nicely. It's really just about just a lot of people, you look at it and you think Goosebumps, and I think this is the adult version of Goosebumps. So if you grew up reading Goosebumps, which I feel like everybody did, this is a really great addition. It's getting really good reviews. I mean, if Jo Nesbo wrote a Stephen King novel, that is kind of what I would mix it into. And I don't want to give too much away, but because I think I've explained the book in its entirety. I think you have to go in knowing that it's a horror book and knowing that if you read horror, this is for you. And if you don't mind the graphicness of Jo Nesbo, then this is for you. I think a lot of people go in thinking it's going to be a crime book because it's Jo Nesbo, or they're not expecting it to be as gory as it actually is. So I think this is a really good, if you like a horror. And I think we live in a generation where besides Stephen King, I know there's a lot of horror books sort of coming onto the market, and sometimes it can be a little bit hit and miss. But if you know that Jo Nesbo is such a great writer and you're really looking for a good thing, I mean, I know Halloween's passed already in October. I should have actually sold this 2 weeks ago or sold this in 2 weeks ago to everybody. But this is a really good thing that's gonna maybe read in the daylight.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's this trend at the moment, they're saying for horror books. So this is like, if you don't read horror and you're thinking of horror, maybe read Jo Nesbo, this is like definitely to give it a try, because they're saying horror is one of the new book trends at the moment. So yeah.
I've seen a lot of bookstores. I spent obviously a lot of time in bookstores, but I've seen a lot of bookstores really jump onto this horror trend, and they starting like little horror sections in the store and things like that. So people are really getting into the horror books now. And I think this is a great intro into horror. And because a lot of the new horror books, they're debut authors, they're not seasoned writers like Jo Nesbo is. So it's a good place to start.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much, Amara. So now it's on to Nicholas for your second title.
Okay. My next title is Why Banks Fail. This is David Buckham, and we follow complementary writing by Robin Wilkinson and Christian Strawelli. David Buckham is a founder and CEO of Monocle, a global financial consultancy firm. It is always a wonderful thing when you are in the book trade to have our own experts writing about their field of expertise. Like David is one of the go-to experts in financial markets and banking. So in this book, he shares with us on the banking bad actors, why South Africa found itself grey listed in February 2003. We, us and Nigeria, were the new members in there. And that in its own had massive implications for ordinary South Africans. But that is something that it's not explored and given to the public in a very accessible way. But he does that in this book. And in 2002, South Africa has its own fair share of banks collapsing. When Sambo Bank collapsed, it had a whole lot of banks that were wiped out, deregistered, and a lot of South Africans lost a lot of their lifetime savings in there. But you never expected a bank like Sambo to collapse. And with banks in general, you don't expect them to collapse because they are so powerful. They held so many billions. But in this book, he shows us why they can fail, why there is that potential for banks to fail, and why there is that frequent bank failures. And in that also, in a very accessible way, he gives also, there's a chapter there, I'd call it a short history of money. So, and that, even if you're not into business, you don't have interest in financial markets, this is a book you can give to anyone who loves commentary on financial matters, economics, even monetary policy, because a lot of it is anchored by what the Reserve Banks does. And our Reserve Bank receives a lot of criticism, so you'll get to see that. And you also have that topical chapter on BRICS and the BRICS ambitions and the global place South Africa aspires to hold. And the discussion also of the dollar, the power of the dollar, and how do we reduce that power? The de-dollarization comes in. So it is such a treasure trove, making all this, difficult financial jargon easy to understand, easy to accessible. And this is the guy who gave us the evergreen best-selling book, End of Money. So this is also a very complimentary work, and I think South Africa should be proud that we have such experts that are respected globally in this field. So please have this in your stocking fillers. Why Banks Fail will help you also to look after your money, almost adds to what Fran said on a book there. So it ties in, shoulder to shoulder. So, and this is for everybody, young and adults can learn a lot on this book.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Nicholas. Yeah, it sounds fantastic. And it sounds very much like, like covers a lot of different topics, which is really great as well. All right, so now we're on to Sine for your second title.
Thank you, Thomas. Let me just quickly start sharing my screen again. Okay, so next up we have a very unique title, and it is The Train House on Labangula Street. This comes to us from Envelope Books, and they are a very unique publisher that does this range of books with covers that look like old postcards. So they're very unique in that way. Definitely evokes a nostalgic and historical feeling, and that is exactly what The Train House on Labangula Street is about. So we follow the Qasim family, who are a traditional Muslim family living in the south of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, in the 1940s to the 1960s. So it looks at a piece of history and a specific group of people that hasn't really been explored a lot in literature. So that makes this book very special and different. So the father, of course, wants his daughters to have the education, the father is looking to have a bit more of a traditional path for his daughters, where their mother would like them to get an education and have their own careers, which I think is, for that time, that was quite a radical thought. So this book really explores the tension in the family that this all brings, and how the daughters are eventually sent to families in Kenya. So we travel to Kenya as well. So this is definitely one of those books that, even though it is based on a family that lived quite a while ago, there are still themes and situations that are very relevant for today and that people will recognize in themselves. So yeah, the author is planning to have a few events, so people can keep an eye out for that. Yeah, so we're very excited about this very special and unique book. So that is The Train House on Labangula Street.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I read some of the reviews online and they're just raving about this book. Like everyone is
yeah.
saying it's a 2-book series. I still look, book 2 is not out yet. It's only maybe coming out next year or in the future. But people have read this book and said her writing is just incredible. It takes you to this period of time, and yeah, they're just all waiting for a second book. I was wondering to see, Sunay, if you open it, does it read like upside down, or does it be like
Yes,
normal
no, you
novel?
read it as a normal book.
Okay.
It is just a cover that's printed a different way, but otherwise you read it as per normal.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that title. All right, so then Annelies, over to you for your second title. You can let me know which one you want to talk about next.
Okay, I am going to do Iron Flame, and I think I should be able to share my screen with you. Let me just go see where the rest of it is. Okay, so I'm just going to see which one. No, it's sharing my Zoom screen.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. I'm just going to, where is my, Thomas, let us not waste time. Yeah, share, I'll do Iron Flame is the next one I want to do. Yes.
Let's go. Share it for you. That's this one. We're all very excited for this. See, so Sunay was also very excited for this. Yeah.
I don't have to talk about this because I think everyone is just waiting out there, and you know, there's a lot of obviously hype around it. We do know that it is the second book in the series. The first one was Fourth Wing. You know, and the funny thing with this is I think all of us are sales reps, and we know what it's like when you go to a customer, because when she came to us, she was a debut author. And I think Fran earlier had this conversation all about, you know, starting or trying to sell in debut authors. But she's been writing for quite some time. She's got different and a whole lot of other series out there that's doing really, really well. But I think she was also self-published, which obviously is then something that, and we sometimes have to explain to the bookstores as well that, you know, they've got this list of books, but if we don't have the rights to sell it here, well, obviously not, we won't be able to sell it, because sometimes we'll have rights to book 2, but not book 1. So we have to wait until we get the rights for that. But enough about it. So I started subbing in Fourth Wing, and people were a bit reluctant. Then I went back in and subbed it again. And then only when, all the hype started online, people realized that, what, we need to stock up on that. And I must say, it's taken the world by storm. It's all over TikTok. It's everywhere. And like I say, it is book 2. So we meet this young girl, and the story obviously starts off with everyone expected Violet to die during her first year at the College of War, and including herself. She also, felt like that she wasn't going to make it. With a body, I think, a bit weaker than all the others. She obviously realized that it's going to be tough. And like they explained, the training is obviously, it's not just, tough, it's also brutal and malicious. And it obviously is designed for, the people who obviously are the strongest, for them to obviously survive. And then, also obviously it says the first year you come to lose your life. The second year is when, you use or you lose your humanity. So, it's obviously a race of the fittest that will survive. It's a brilliant world. There's dragons, and obviously, like it's at the college or the school, where obviously the stronger dragon will obviously survive. But it's all about, obviously, in the end, if your mind is not strong enough, you're not going to make it. And like I say, she is obviously out there doing her best to make sure that she's going to survive. And I think everyone, including herself, underestimated her, but she seems to be out there doing her thing. And obviously, I don't want to say too much, but I think we'll be nicely surprised to see who comes out on top of the second year, and if Violet is going to kick dust in everyone else's eyes. So definitely, if you don't have stock, please make sure, because we keep on running out of stock. Like they keep on having to reprint. I know there was also a special edition, but they only printed, I think, like 500 copies of that. So people are running around, rushing around. I know it was a bit late, but I think stock should be, because I saw online that stock was, it arrived at the warehouse Friday. It was a whole lot of frenzy going on. People are running around. So it should be in your stores quite soon. So definitely something to, they do compare it obviously to Sarah J. Maas as well. And we know she is a big name, and so if you have a fan that wants something new, definitely the Rebecca Yarros. Fourth Wing was the first one in the series, and then Iron Flame is the new and the next one, hot from the press and available in stores. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Annalise. We should, if all goes well, we'll have it tomorrow. And this has been our second biggest selling pre-order book for this year. I think after Atlas Pass sold, this book is just, our stock hasn't come in yet. I think we have to pack like over 200 web orders. It'll come in today or tomorrow, and we'll be sending them all out. So, but the excitement for this book is just huge at the moment. So,
yeah. My cousin read it. She got an EPUB of the book before, because it sold out in South Africa so quickly that she couldn't get a physical copy for months. And so I bought her a physical copy for her birthday, and she read it 4 times before I bought her the physical copy. So she is so excited for this book.
So yeah, it should be in stores this week.
Yeah, I remember watching a review of someone in America, and they had to buy the ebook because they went to all the bookshops in America and nobody had a copy. I think it's just around the world. It's been such a hard to get the first book that was. So yeah.
So you must place your pre-orders now. On
Facebook. Pre-orders.
Yeah, we have our stock now. I mean, if you want a copy, we'll have it this week, but we can't tell you after that. So yeah. All right, so we're on to the final round, the lightning round. So Fran, over to you for your final title.
Camp Sticking with Money, because we're heading to the festive season where we either don't have any or spend things we don't have, or we regret it all in January. So Morgan Housel did, and I can actually say this, best-selling author, which that we say, but it's a bit dodgy. So he actually is the best-selling author of Psychology of Money, which always stays in sort of the top 20 on Nielsen's. And this is another fascinating book. It's 23 short stories, anecdotes, and it looks at how, we always when we think about the future, we're thinking about what will the economy be doing this time next year, or you know, what's it going to be like 10 years from now? And he stops us and he says that focus is all wrong. You cannot predict what's going to happen in the future, but you should be asking what will be the same 10 years from now? What will be the same 100 years from now? You know, and what's great about this book, it looks at finance, it looks at behavior, it looks at life, it looks at history. So you'll tick all those boxes for those readers out there. But I think what sort of sums it up, the anecdote from the beginning of the book, is this guy, let's call him Jim, is walking around this town in America with Warren Buffett. And he said, you know, Warren, look at all these buildings, these buildings that closed after COVID, these, you know, for sale, for closure signs everywhere, boarded up. You know, isn't that just terrible? We never saw this coming. And Warren said, Jim, what was the best-selling candy bar in the 60s? Snickers. Jim, what's the best-selling candy bar now? Snickers. So the whole point is, as things change, you've got to identify those things that still stay the same and why they stay the same. So I think this will be a brilliant book to give anyone for Christmas and also into the new year when we're all broke.
Yeah, and also this book is coming out tomorrow internationally, and we'll have it tomorrow. So well done, Millen, for arranging that. So yeah, this book is coming hot off the press, brand new content, brand new organ.
Definitely want to read this.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Fran. All right, so Wade, over to you for your final title.
Okie dokie. All right. So this is When the Filter Fades by Janine Gillis. It is a local title published by Tracy McDonald Publishers. This is from their new imprint called Incwadi Yothando, which can be translated to mean love letters. So they're going to be focusing on sort of modern romance books and with this new series, and they are accepting submissions for any of you burgeoning writers out there. You can go to their website and submit your manuscript. When the Filter Fades is the story of three women. They're sort of in their 20s, living in Johannesburg, and they all came of age during the rise of the internet. So they all basically live online. There is Ashlyn, who grew up quite rough and has sort of had this rags to riches story where now she is a high fashion influencer on social media. And every day her outfits get scrutinized by, you know, the online hordes of people. Then there's Boosie, who grew up as the daughter of South Africa's most famous musician, a guy called Starman in this book. And so she would often join him on stage as a little kid, singing along with him. So she's a very recognizable face, but unfortunately, she hasn't had any real work in the last few years. But what she does do is go to every big, lavish party and make sure she's seen there causing a stir, like creating some kind of scandal to keep herself in the news. Then there is Mbali, and she runs a sort of tabloid celebrity website that it's very powerful in South Africa. It can make or break careers. And so all three of these women, their lives sort of intermingle and connect in various different ways as they try to make it big in the sort of online social media world in South Africa. And of course, Janine Gillis is really well known for her big South African hair book. She's an awesome author, and this is her first fiction title.
That's exciting. And it's exciting, this new imprint for Tracy McDonald, because I saw it was printed from her and I was like, wow, I don't remember Tracy ever doing a fiction title, you know, because she's so well known for picking these amazing biographies and business books, you know. So really exciting to see what she publishes next in this imprint.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see like what's going to happen here. Yeah, it sounds very promising.
Great, wonderful. Thanks so much, Wade. All right, so now it's over to Amara for your final title. You'll just have to unmute yourself, Amara. There you go.
Yes, I know. I realized I was saying it in my head, but then I was muted, and then I was like, nobody can hear me say that I must unmute myself. So my final title is What You Are Looking For Is in the Library. It's been translated by Alison Watts. It is such a beautiful book. The book follows 5 different characters as they sort of going through different phases of their life, from somebody who's just become an adult to somebody who is just retiring. And as you're reading the book, you're learning about these 5 very different Japanese people and sort of trying to understand their life. And the one thing that ties them all together is this librarian. So it has a little bit of a magical realism element, if you can think of the before the coffee gets cold, that sort of Japanese style, the midnight library. There's a librarian who can see the souls of the guests, and she has this perfect ability that she can tell exactly what book you need. So as you're reading each section, there's 5 different sections for each character. It's told from their perspective, and they have this person from the library that gives them exactly what they're looking for. I mean, I read a lot of Japanese translated fiction. And so this one I was really, really excited for. And what I noticed is that the translation doesn't read like a translation, which I really loved. It reads as if the book was written in English. It's so
Wow.
smooth. The writing is beautiful. It like transitions really nicely. And it's got that sort of cozy comfort read that you really want sometimes, especially over the holidays. You de-stressing from your very stressful year. This year has gone so quickly, and it's just like it really is a comforting home book, full of books which I think all book people are really happy about, and friendship and community, and just like anybody who's sort of in a section of their life where they need to I suppose reassess life or look at their own life again. This is really one that is quite beautifully written. And if you don't believe me, on Goodreads, there are 8,000 reviews, and 7,000 of them are 4 to 5 stars. So,
Wow.
I mean, and the other 1,000 is 3 stars. So the reviews are really, really, people are enjoying this book. It's really a book for book lovers. And I think we all want that as a person who's a bookseller, who used to be a bookseller, that wanting to give somebody the perfect thing for them. I think it's a dream that all of us kind of have. I would also compare it to in a very different way, to the music shop. Oh, no, the Little French Bookshop, the music shop, that kind of
Yeah.
style of book, very comforting to read, very easy to read. This is it. But you still have people who are going through things, but it's dealt with in such a beautiful way.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I think it's also a great book for book clubs, I think,
Yes,
yeah, and great for
yes.
end of year read. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Tamara. So Nicholas, over to you for your final title.
My final title is Hot Water. So this is a memoir. And for me, this is not just a memoir. It reads like, a manifesto of, a young woman, clarion call to speak not only for herself, but also for many women who do not have the voice. It is that memo that, the author is very brave. Nadine is very brave to write so intimately and compellingly about her chronic illness. She, for most of her life, she was, misdiagnosed, or for lack of a better word, never diagnosed at all. And her illness is the endometriosis. And, that is one illness that is not spoken about, and it affects many women, and some of whom are young. And the young ones, as they deal with this illness, they face so much nastiness in our societies. There's sexism, there's slut shaming, fat phobia, and some of these, they experience these in the hands of the healthcare workers. The healthcare system fails them, and what Nadine does in her memoir is, she brings those struggles that she has faced growing up, growing up from Hanover Park and Mitchell's Plain, there isn't access of better medical care, and you rely on the public sector, and that is where there is a lot of problems. So that's why I say, she gives the voice to, girls that look like her, women of color, and women in general by extension, because this affects, women's bodies, their reproductive systems. In the book, there are some horrific experiences that Nadine, has experienced in the hands of doctors, and some of the doctors, they gave it the treatment that they would give to someone who looks like her. So in some instances, so I hope there's not gonna be any label suits coming in, because she has good experiences and bad experiences in the hands of doctors, and they are appearing in the book, and where she received wonderful life-saving experience, and she brings that, but in the main, you have a daring look, and very compellingly, that what the disadvantaged communities still lack, and many of them have this illness, but they don't have that access to, So you'll have, she deals also with a lot of misogynistic tendencies that she's got in them, there's an army of women who are supporting her, who are holding her, who are inspiring to her. And in this memo also, you have a story of survival, through pain, because this is somebody who could have easily taken her own life, because she has been living in pain. She's been in pain. And even now, as she wrote the book, she is still experiencing pain. So this is a book I wish people would pick up, and as not just a book that deals with pain, but a book that inspires. That Nadine also, she is an activist. She writes for Daily Maverick now and again on health, reproductive systems, and so that has inspired her not to do it for herself, but for many other women, and particularly African women of color. So her story is quite moving. It's very inspirational. Just last weekend, she was at the Cape Flats Book Festival. So these people were really moved. So I won't be surprised if that was the book that sold the most during the festival. So it is one memo to give to people for the season. And there were a few academics who were in attendance who already said this is one book they would like to teach sections of, because it also indirectly, this illness, it makes you that you are being treated like you are disabled, but you're not disabled, but because you are discriminated against. So there is that hope, and Nadine gives hope. She's fighting for many and inspire them that you can live through this, but we shouldn't live like this. There should be access to care, and respectful, and with much more dignity. There is a moving page that there, where her body was violated because she was young and she was a colored woman at the hands of this male doctor. But that is something that I think people should get the book and travel that journey as she is living with Endo. And it's quite a remarkable and inspirational book. It will inspire a lot of women.
Yeah, no, I mean, as Xander from Chicana said, this looked me also fantastic that you guys publish this book. She still sold it before the cover, and yeah, it's such an inspiring story, and that Nadine can live to tell the tale is just incredible. I think it'll be definitely a talking book when people read it to want to talk about it. So yeah, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nicholas. Okay, so now it's on to Sine for her final title.
Yay, thank you, Thomas. Let me quickly just get it up here. Okay, so the last title today from my side is Bluebeard's Castle. This comes to us from author Anna Biller. And this is a modern feminist retelling of the classic French fairy tale. I believe it's a bit more of an obscure one, but people who maybe studied literature or grew up with more fairy tales will definitely know it. So in this version, we meet the successful British mystery writer Judith when she meets Gavin, a handsome and charming young baron, at a birthday party. And this absolutely transforms her life. And she now feels like she is the main character in one of her own books. But when she finally gets to Gavin's home, which turns out to be a Gothic castle in a very remote area, things quickly escalate from there and start spinning out of control a bit. So it's definitely very Gothic, very much the vibe of something like Practical Magic, the movie. And yeah, Anna is also an independent filmmaker, so you can definitely expect this book to be very atmospheric. It's definitely going to play like a movie in your head, and definitely going to grip you and transport you to a dark and Gothic world. So yeah, so we're very excited about this one. It's also been getting excellent reviews, so it should also be a very good read for anybody looking for something Gothic and something to escape in.
Okay, fantastic, wonderful. Thanks so much, Sine. All right, so we're on to the final book now. So, Annelies, it's over to you. Do you want to try share your screen, or do you like me to? Was I do it? Okay, let me share it.
Now I've got too many things open
Okay.
on the side, so, and they also updated my laptop this morning, so it should be fast, but it seems like it's 10 times slower. So I spent my morning panicking about this update and being done in time.
Okay.
Okay, so my third book I'll be talking about is called The King of Greed. It is book 3 in the Kings of Sin series. So that is a romance story, I would say. Anna's obviously known for writing amazing series. We had 2 different series out. We had the Twisted series that was out last year, and this year also we received the If Love series. But like I said, this is book 3 in the King of Greed series. So we start off with this husband and wife, and he seemed to have everything in life. He has a beautiful wife, more money that he can spend in one day, and then we obviously meet his wife, who obviously stood by him all these years while he was building his empire, and at some point just realizes that, you know what, he is no longer the man that she met and that she fell in love with, and maybe it's time to move on. So she obviously wants a divorce, and he on the other hand realizes that he's lost the only thing that really matters to him, because I sometimes feel, or we do notice, that you look at people and they have these beautiful houses and everything, but meanwhile there's so many other things that lack, and this is exactly where he finds himself. So it's a brilliant series. It's an easy and quick read. You don't have to read them in order, but they do obviously, it's part of the same series. So very excitingly for the people who are in love with the series, next year, I think around about April, we will have 4 in the King of Sin series. So looking forward to that. But in the meantime, you can enjoy book 3, King of Greed by Anna Hung. That is my
Wow.
last one.
Thank you so much. I didn't know about the 4th book, but yeah, I mean, the Twisted
Yeah.
series still
I
sells
just
so
saw it
well.
now. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Twisted series, and these books are chunky. They're not that
Yes,
they're
they are.
very
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Okay, let me
Yeah.
quickly just share our top 5. Well, thank you everyone for those amazing books. Wow, sport for choice, as I said at the beginning. Just wanted to quickly mention, similar to what Annalise was saying, that tomorrow we should all have Iron Flame in our stores. And then this Thursday, we should all have The Year of the Locust, the new Terry Hayes title, as 2 of the big books for this week. And then just to mention the top 5 best-selling books for the past 2 weeks at Reader's Warehouse. So number 5 is the latest Lee Child book with Andrew Child, the new Jack Reacher novel. Number 4 is The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese, is the 4th bestseller. Number 3 is the latest Ken Follett title, The Armor of Light, the Kingsbridge series. Number 2 is the latest Beyond Mayer Benny Crystal title, Alfred Cowan's Leo. And number 1 again is the Erasmus biography, Stories of Life and Rugby is our number 1 bestseller. So that is it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week to talk about children's books. But until then, thanks for watching and happy reading. Thanks everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Cool.
Thank you.